All right. Welcome, everyone, back to another week of the Nurse Kristen podcast. And if any of you guys are watching on YouTube, the Nurse Kristen YouTube channel, I am so excited because this week I was able to get one of my girlfriends that I've known for a few years on the Instagram. You guys know her as the night shift nurse, Ashleigh. I am so excited to have her here, guys, because we're going to cover so much about night shift for nurses. I get a lot of questions about night shift, and I always send them to you because I tell people you're like the expert mentor in the subject now because you've done this and you've lived it since you've been a nurse.
Yep.
So, we're going to cover a lot of things, guys. She has so much to offer any of you guys that are working night shift and need that help and support. Questions, concerns, this girl's got you. She's got every answer, anything that you guys need help with. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce that night shift nurse you guys see on Instagram, Ashleigh. Welcome so much to the
Hi.
podcast and YouTube. Thank you so much for coming on.
I was so excited. Yeah, it's like you said, there's a lot of content, and I know that other people get a lot of night shift questions, but like you said, I live and breathe this. It's been 9 years. So this is my jam. So
It
I'm glad.
is. I am so excited to have you on. So, a couple things we're going to talk about so everyone knows. We're going to talk a little bit about the community that you have available for everyone. That is the Night Shift Network. It's free that anyone can be part of.
Mhm.
We'll talk about the night school, the 90-day mentorship program that you have for anyone that is doing night shift. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're really going to end it on you talking about your flip the shift method. So, it's going to be all about owning it, building it, living it, which I love,
Mhm.
by the way. I wish that was available whenever I was still doing night shift, by the way. I love it. So, first, let's talk a little bit about you. So, I know everyone's going to want to know what's your story, your background, how you got into nursing, all of the good stuff. Because,
All of
you
all
know,
of the good things.
yeah.
I joke at my job that I'm old now. Okay, so I graduated from a nursing school. So I got my BSN from University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh in 2014. It was technically just I was a December grad, but they don't count that you graduated until January.
Yeah.
So 2014 is when I graduated officially from nursing school, followed by getting my RN. I transitioned from I was a secretary and a care partner in a smaller like NICU pediatric unit. Went to our bigger hospital and transitioned to my RN role as a level 4 NICU nurse. So I've been doing that for 9 years. Other than my brief stint on orientation of day shift, I have been night shift since July of 2020 or 2014. So I'm 9 years in solid.
Wow.
The occasional, would you switch for day shift? And I would be nice and say I did, but I came home and I was not a nice person. So I prefer to not do day shift. I don't go in anytime before 1500. Um, so I got my BSN then, and in about 2017, I went back and got my MSN, which thank you, COVID delayed a little bit of the graduation process.
Yeah.
So I finally got that done in 2021. So everything
Yay.
has been done and over with for a while now, thank goodness. But got my MSN. I'm a certified NICU nurse in the level 4 NICU. And I have a certification in sleep stress management and recovery, which is basically lifestyle management. And I incorporate all of that into the night shift things as well. But there's no like one night shift specific program, which is what I do. But it's kind of like inventing the wheel because I'm the first person to do it. I can't find anyone that's doing night shift specific. And
Mhm.
so any and all feedback that anybody has for me is always appreciated because I can't build something with like I'm just doing my evidence-based research as an MSN
Mhm.
person. So my curriculum is all evidence-based and everything, but like it's a process. um
Yeah.
so it's been quite an interesting journey to get to that night shift nurse from this little baby BSN NICU nurse 9 years ago, to say the least.
Yeah. And I mean, and to touch on that, you're exactly right. Because whenever I first started as a new grad in 2020, so just like you said, during COVID time, pretty crazy time, right? Especially to be a brand new nurse at that time.
Yes.
There, like immediately, I worked night shift, and that's what I did for pretty
hmm
much 2.5 years. And I was looking for the support, and I was looking for anyone that does it and getting all the tips and tricks and all of that stuff. But to your point, I had not seen any nurses out there that were all about the support and the mentoring of the new nurses or anyone that was switching from days to nights that had never done it, even if they were
hmm
seasoned.
Yep.
So, good point as far as doing that. So, another question I have for you is like, what inspired you to want to be that mentor for other nurses that were just starting out right out of nursing
hmm
school, working night shift? Because we know a lot of the new nurses work night shift, not to say
Yep.
they don't work days, but
Right.
majority are nights.
Yep.
And or a seasoned nurse. Maybe they were doing days
Mhm.
and now they wanted to switch to nights, maybe because of the
There's
differential
a
or
lot of
whatever the
position
reasons.
changes too. Like there
Yeah.
with everything happening in nursing and now kind of being that really high opportunity of going for a job that you can wish you had clinically,
Mhm.
then there's a lot of that transition from maybe I was doing clinic for God knows how long, but now that my dream job is on night shift. And so it's like I'm not a new nurse, but I've never worked
Yeah.
night shift. So yeah, it's complicated, but it's intimidating. So
Yeah. So
I had to
what
help the night
inspired you
shift
to do
nurses.
it? Like what got you into where, you obviously you still work full time and then
Yes.
this is like something you do completely on the side. So
hmm
what inspired you to want to just dig deep and help anyone out there and give advice and support?
Yeah, so I joke that my NICU job is my nighttime job, and then the mentorship is my daytime job. So I'm technically working two jobs. But the the birth of that night shift nurse actually happened during the 2020 season of like Pilot Pete's Bachelor season. I
Oh
will
yeah.
say the origin story is so I had been personally going through as I've been a preceptor on my unit. I really loved that one-on-one connection and teaching
hmm
the new nurses, and then hearing a lot of feedback from people that I work with, or just not necessarily complaining, but like all of these different struggles that they have to deal with, whatever phase in life that they're going through. Moms and like new moms, and then the older moms, and just brand new grad nurses. So there was a lot of demographic on night shift, but
hmm
the struggles are kind of all the same in their own individual way. I know it sounds weird, but
Yeah.
to kind of categorize them. And so I was going through a mentorship program myself, trying to figure out, I loved the one-on-one aspect of working and teaching and helping.
hmm
I found the nursing professional development sector in nursing, which is a very big organization in and of itself.
hmm
And that's where mentorship comes from. That's where precepting comes from. They're kind of like overarching in there. So I got my MSN as an MSN generalist because there's no one specific nursing program for nursing professional development.
Yeah.
And then with the program I was going through for my own mentorship was trying to figure out, okay, I'm missing something. I thought I was supposed to help nurses in their careers because they were miserable.
hmm
They were like it's just the struggle. I'm just not thriving. What's going on? And then bottle of wine deep into The Bachelor. And I'm like, oh, every person that I would hear these struggles from was a night shift nurse,
Oh
regardless
my
of who it
gosh.
was and what they were struggling with was a night shift nurse. So it just was like this light bulb moment. I'm like, I'm supposed to help the night shift nurses.
Oh my
Like
gosh. Yes.
that's who I'm supposed to be helping because I had like I was in a relationship. Was still going and doing things with all of my friends, and I was in school for my MSN, and they're like, I don't know how you do all of these things. And I'm like, okay, I actually do maybe need to think about how do I do all of these things because that's what everyone else was struggling with. So yeah,
hmm
thank you to The Bachelor
Yeah,
for
right?
the origin of that night shift nurse. But so that's how between like my precepting background and the one-on-one and then learning more in my MSN program, but then hearing from all of the night shift nurses that I work
Yeah.
with, the struggles, it just like all of the pieces finally came together and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to help the night shift nurses. So here we are, that night
Here
shift nurse. I changed everything in 2020. We've been focusing on content since, just celebrated the 3-year like birthday, and so
Yes, you did.
ever
I'm so
changing and growing and
excited.
evolving. So
Yes. No, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And it's funny how it is like a light bulb moment too, when it
mhm,
just clicks and you're like, okay, this is truly what I need to be doing on top of everything
right.
else. But like you said, like, I mean, it is like two full-time jobs essentially, because during the
Yeah.
day, it's like when do you sleep? And then you're trying to do all that. So
hmm
that's awesome. So I want to touch a couple of things because you do offer so much for night shift nurses out there. One of
hmm
them being a community. So you
Yes.
have a night shift network, which is free. So
hmm
anyone that wants that support, what can they take from the community if they were to be part of it?
So realistically, it's a safe place for night shift nurses to be, because it is this just our online space. So it's not just night shift nurses. I do have a few other healthcare professionals in there as well.
Oh,
Night
okay.
shift.
Good
Night
to
shift
know.
is night shift. It is specific, like it says the night shift nurse network, but healthcare professionals who work night shift also struggle. I've worked with MDs, I've worked with NPs, like at advanced practice. So
Yeah.
it's fine. Night shift. Everybody in healthcare
Everyone
experiences night shift at
included,
some point or
not just
another.
nurses. Yeah.
Right. But not everybody who is not night shift understands what we're going through. So
Mhm.
it is truly just this non-judgmental space and community to get support, advice, tips and tricks. So and not just from myself, but from other people, because we have to individualize our night shift experience if we're going to make it work. We can't
Mhm.
just, it's not a cookie cutter lifestyle. Everybody adjusts differently. And so we still experience a lot of the same things, but we have to figure out how it's going to work for us and individualize our experience. So we can always learn all of these things from other people. I
Mhm.
can teach them step by step how to figure it out, but we have to have that other community support, because sometimes the
Yeah.
people that we live with or our family and our friends just don't get it unless they've worked it. So,
That is a very true point because, yes, when I was working night shift, it was exactly that. My family, friends had no idea what I was going through or
mhm,
what was happening. So I didn't even have a community at that point for other people with night shift nurses and understanding that. And I love how you said that it's not even just with you, but it's the whole community that's part of it, that everyone helps
mhm,
each other and what worked for them may not work for someone else. But
right.
like having all of those ideas, and I'm sure even for you, you're like, I didn't think of that. That's actually a really
Mhm,
good point. So, that helps you grow and kind of understanding too of what everyone's trying, doing. I love that with that community.
yeah.
So you have the free community. So if anyone wants to
Yes.
find something like that, please join. That's an amazing thing. The other thing you also offer is the night shift 90-day mentorship program.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what is that mentorship about and what's included?
So night school is 90 days, but it's what I call a hybrid. So it's a mix of the curriculum. So I teach you everything that you need to know to just piece by piece put together what your individualized night shift routine is going to be, using my flip the shift method we'll talk about in a little bit. So
Mhm.
we work to actually own this overnight lifestyle that we're working, but then we have to build out that routine that's going to help us function and feel good on a more regular basis rather than being on
Yeah.
that struggle bus all the time. And then lastly, so we can live this night shift lifestyle to on our own terms and decrease that constant hangover feeling that we get and those
Mhm.
sacrifices that we feel like we're always struggling to balance in life. I don't love the word balance in general. I think stability is the better word for trying to figure out how to make night shift work best. And like I said earlier, night shift is an individualized experience. So what other people are doing is not going to be the same. It's not the cookie cutter. It's not like a plug and play. We use personal like tracking and trends. We're nurses. We love trends. We do
Yes.
assessments. We love trends.
True.
I see you nurse here, so I'm looking at all of the things. So we're utilizing that to truly build out what the best game plan is to take for night shift. So whether someone is going to do it like short term and maybe they'll jump on the chance to go to day shift as soon as possible. But I have had people figure out their routine and then they're like, oh yeah, night shift really isn't as bad because I can make it work. That works for me. Um,
Mhm.
So you get the curriculum of all of the things that we feel like we're sacrificing or struggling with from our sleep, which, number one is
Number
sleep.
one.
Number one is sleep. And then nutrition, physical activity. I feel like I hear from night shift nurses that they don't know like when to work out, or they stop working out because they just don't know how.
Yeah.
And then productivity. We always have a to-do list. We have things to do in regular life too. And then lastly, the boundaries. We have to talk about boundaries and how we set them with ourselves, how we set them with work, how we set them with our family and friends, because that routine that we just worked really hard to build throughout the curriculum is not going to work if we're just saying yes and no to the wrong things.
Yeah.
So you learn all of these things, but then I'm right there with you with the on-demand one-on-one calls, but 24/7 support in our private night school student group. So you're not alone. And then there is the community of other night school students. So you guys are probably at a different point. Everybody can start when is the best for them. You can start. It's not like I don't just do an open and a close and that's it. I changed the model now. So if you're struggling right now, we can have a call, figure this out, and start tomorrow. So there's no like, I hated having to have that like open enrollment and then say, well, I'm not running another group until then. I didn't love that. So wanted to be able to help the nurses like right now. So there's weekly question and answer, like basically office hours with me.
Okay.
So anybody within the night school students group can come in, ask questions, get answers. So everybody could be at their own point in the night school journey, but then you learn from other people again. So it's that community of like learning maybe what's working for someone else too. So it's the curriculum and then the coaching from me and then the community as well. So it's all like this very lovely packaged thing to really truly build out that individualized night shift experience to make it more doable, but easier to implement. It doesn't have to be scary. Doing a routine, the word routine sounds scary. So sometimes I like to call it a game plan. We got to have a game plan for the day.
It almost seems
like,
stressful when you think routine, because then you're like, oh gosh, like
right. Like when we show up to work, we're like, okay, I got to get a game plan together for what I have to do for which patient and this and that. So the game plan of a night shift routine is really just to help you plan out what your day is supposed to look like. That's going to help you prepare for your shift, helps recover from your shift, and then truly have really good days off too that don't feel like it's completely wasted. I know everyone hates their flip days,
right?
Everyone hates the flip days. And I wish I could, the number one thing that I know a lot of people struggle with, we'll put sleep on the side burner for that. But the number one thing is the waking up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the day. So I truly wish that I could I've tried any, like you can try tips and tricks. You can try, I've looked in the evidence-based literature. There's no rhyme or reason that we can fix that. So I'm sorry, you guys, you're just you're going to have to wake up and pee in the middle of the day. That's your body's different circadian rhythm. And we can't turn that one off. So,
yeah. Oh
but we can help our body adjust on for all the other things. I'll tell you that we can help it adjust for all the other things. I just can't help you stop having to go to the bathroom in the middle of your sleep. So
oh my goodness. Well, so with the 90-day too, it's very personalized. So like you said, you meet with each person and exactly what they've got going on, try to personalize to what they need to do or how to make it work for them. After the 90 days, so say they're done with the 90 days, do they still get the help and support after the 90 days in the group, or do you offer anything after 90 days?
So there is like kind of, there's two different options. There is what I call routine maintenance. So that's an option to continue to have the one-on-one access and support to me. Okay. There is a group where it's called like night school continuing ed. Maybe they're not done with the curriculum yet either in those 90 days. So they just kind of get moved to a different group, but they still get the access to me. It's just a little bit of a different format. It's not as structured, like you're not really going to get the weekly Q&A sessions. So the 90 days is truly like, we're ready to dive in. I'm ready to make these changes and I need all of that accountability and support. But it's all self-paced. So you don't just, it's not like, okay, week 1, we're focusing on module 1.
Okay.
I get it. Life happens, things come up. So that's why
Yeah.
it's 90 days. There's 8 modules to do in 90 days. So realistically, it's about like a week and a half per one module.
Oh,
If
okay.
they were going to do it that way. The sleep one takes the longest because that's the one we have to fix the most and really nail down the most.
Yeah.
And then there is a week where my module 7 is, I've just basically put it together as like, okay, let's evaluate where we're at. We have all of the pieces put together. Is it working? Is it not working? Is there something we need to change? So it's just more of a self-reflection and evaluation and kind of assessment is all
Yeah.
of the stuff that we just really worked piece by piece to put together. Is this working or do I need to make some adjustments? So it's not strict and rigid. It's the self-pace. And then if they're not done with the curriculum, we just move into the night school continuing ed. So you're still
Okay.
working on the curriculum. They can still schedule one-on-one calls, but that's a little bit of a different structure. Or if they're completely done with it and they're like, yeah, I feel good. This is my routine. They graduate and they're in the alumni group. So
Yay.
so
Okay.
we're done. So there are definitely still options. And then so when they're done with the curriculum, they move to the alumni group anyway. And then if they would like to do that routine maintenance just to have continued check-ins and accountability, there's always that too. So there's still something for after night school, just in case that
Yeah.
90
Yeah.
days comes up and we're not completely done yet. So
Okay.
there's that
Good to
too.
know. Awesome. And
Mhm.
I love that it's self-paced because like you said, life happens. People, just
Yes.
life happens. I mean, things happen all the time. So it's nice that they
Mhm.
can go at their own pace. And like you said, because everyone's at a different point too with
Yeah.
night shift. So maybe like one thing they really want to look at because it's an issue that they already know they have. Maybe someone really just needs the entire thing. So they can kind of
Mhm.
go at whatever that they need the help with, essentially
Yep.
the support with. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
And then 90-day mentorship. Next
Yes.
thing, you have your nocturnal shop. So you have your shop.
Mhm.
I love the shirt, by the way.
Yeah, my nocturnal design.
Yes, yes. So it's super cute. So even you have the merch, so anyone can go online and buy anything of your shop. So
Mhm.
awesome. And we'll have information on that at the end. But the one big thing I really wanted to talk about, and that you have mentioned on social a lot too, is your flip the shift method.
Mhm.
So tell us about the flip the shift method and what that completely entails for people.
Right. So it's truly more of a 3-phase process that we have to go through as night shift nurses. And this is the step-by-step process that I use inside night school, or really any of my mentorship options. And with the flip the shift method, obviously you have to like put a name to like, okay, what am I doing? Like, what am
Hmm.
I doing and why am I doing this? So how I said earlier, I had to figure out, everyone says, how do you make night shift work? Okay, now I have to figure out how I make night shift work.
Yeah.
So as I've done that, I realized, okay, the first thing that I have to do is I own it. I personally love night shift. I have more of a pros list than a cons list for night shift. So I own it. Like this is part of who I am. Now I understand that it's not for everybody,
Hmm.
but if we're owning the fact that yes, I work night shift and acknowledging that it's maybe not for me, but I don't have to put my body through all of this agony. Like it's a
Hmm.
choice.
Yeah.
To say either I'm going to be on the struggle bus all the time or I'm going to do something that's going to help me get through it.
Hmm.
So if we're choosing to either suffer or we're choosing to help make the struggle like relief, basically like the relief path,
Yeah.
for those who are not the lifers like myself. And then even the lifers are like, I just need to figure out how to make this work long term because I
Yeah.
love it and I want to stay here. So how can I make it work for me?
Hmm.
So we have to own it. We have to just own the fact that we're working night shift. Like I said, whether you like it or not, we're working night shift right now. And this is where we're at. So then the choice is, am I going to suffer or can I actually thrive?
Hmm.
Um, so survival mode is a choice and we can make it better. So that's the first phase that we have to go through. And throughout the night school curriculum itself, we focus on basically these 3 phases in each topic: the sleep, the nutrition, the movement. So we're doing these 3 phases each time because we have to figure out where that setback is when we're not owning it, or where that struggle is when it comes to maybe the boundaries that we have with people. Like, why am I not owning the fact that I need sleep?
Yes.
And then why, like, where's that struggle and that disconnect? So truly, it's all about our mindset, what our thoughts are, what our beliefs are. Because if we believe that we're going to struggle and it's going to suck, that's the way it's going to stay. So we have to own it. So that's the first phase. Then the second phase is building it. And the building it is that piece by piece individualization of putting together a night shift routine. So that routine, we'll rename it as a game plan, is what's going to help to prepare and recover from the night shifts so that we can function and feel good, whether we're flip-flopping, whether it's a day off. So we have to structure something for 4 different night shift schedules. And this is what I think most nurses, I've standardized this inside of my program. And this is where a lot of the education comes from, because I feel like nurses are just constantly winging it.
Oh,
and then they're like, well, and then we wonder why we're struggling is because we're just winging it. We do have to have structure. Our bodies love to know what to do and when. And that's what our circadian rhythm does. But when we work night shift, that's completely opposite and unnatural for our circadian rhythm. So we have to help our body adjust to what we want it to do. So we have to build the 4 different night shift routines, basically 4 different game plans. Because when you look at your week, so for example, maybe we work 3 night shifts in a 7-day time span. So we have a first night on that first day that we're going back to work. It was a full day off the day before. So people really struggle with, what do I do all day? Do I stay up super late and then go to bed and try and sleep all day? It's not recommended. It's a sleep debt and a sleep gap thing. That's a whole different story. So that first night on is a struggle. But if you know what your routine is like for that day, you can look at your night shift night on routine, say, all right, this is my game plan because this is where it falls this week. And then back-to-back shifts, of course, are kind of the easiest one. It's just that revolving door. We get home, we go to bed, we wake up, we go back to work. There's not a lot of time there. And then we have our flip days. Everybody hates the flip days.
I did not like flip days. They were the worst.
Everybody hates the flip days. And there's truly, like, there's the flip days, but there's a couple, like, there's 2 different minuscule categories. There's like a flip day A and a flip day B. So the flip day A is that routine and game plan for when we just want to flip back to normal. And maybe it was like a 1-nighter, like super easy. Okay, I can stay up all night, or even 2 nights is okay. But once we start hitting that 3, 4, 5, some people do 6 night shifts in a row. They're personally crazy, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, no.
The maximum I think I've done in my career was 5 night shifts, and I will not
5.
do that ever again. So that flip day is the flip day B. It just truly needs to be a recovery day, because when we work that many night shifts in a row, we're flipping our circadian rhythm. Like, every day we get closer and closer to night shift. So imagine that first day is pretty much like you're flying to Europe. You're going to be there for 5 days and then you're going to come back. So we're jet lagging ourselves really bad the more night shifts we work in a row. And so a lot of things that I've heard from nurses that I've worked 3, 4, 5 nights in a row, but I need to flip and I have to do something on this day, but then I feel like crap. Well, it's because you're jet lagged essentially, and you expect your body to just go back to normal. So that's where that flip day B is. And it really needs to be a recovery day. So if you work 5 night shifts and you want to flip on that day and expect yourself to have a lot of energy and to just function like your normal self, if you only worked 1 night shift, it's not realistic. So we need to make sure that we're kind of setting up that flip day A and flip day B for what's appropriate. And then, of course, we have our days off. Days off are pretty easy. We need a little bit of structure so we can help ourselves do something that is going to make us feel productive.
Yeah,
We,
100%.
we want to be productive, especially on days off, but we also want to have fun. So building out this night shift game plan with these 4 different night shift routines helps you look, you can take side by side, say night on, I plug and play this, day off, I plug and play. This is just kind of like my outline, back to back days. So we're matching the time that we have on those days, the energy that we have on those days with kind of what we expect to happen, and making sure that we're meeting our basic needs. Our basic needs get thrown out of the window as soon as we're like, oh my God, I'm working night shift.
Yep.
So this very unnatural and scary stigma that it has doesn't need to be scary. I understand that it's unnatural because it truly is. Human biology wants to get up when the sun comes out and go to bed at nighttime. So, yes, it is unnatural, but we can use these game plans to help our body adjust to what we expect of it for the day. So that's the build it part. So there's more that goes into the build it part, utilizing our personal circadian rhythms and how we want to function and feel good, and include all of those really important pieces: the sleep, the movement. Are we making sure we're eating? Are we having fun? Are we seeing people that we want to see? So still basically putting the life back into the night shift lifestyle is that build it piece.
Yeah.
And then so to ultimately live a night shift lifestyle that is individualized and on your own terms. So the overall thing is I'm flipping the shift on the fact that night shift is dictating and running your life. We're flip-flopping that and saying, I am running and dictating how I do night shift. So we need to utilize those routines for that purpose. All the evidence-based literature says routines help night shifters and shift workers, but it doesn't tell you how to set it up, how to do it.
How to get to that point.
Of course it doesn't. So that's why I've put together those 8 modules in the night school curriculum to give you the education behind like what we're doing. Because knowledge is that piece that we're missing. That's why night shift is scary. It's because we don't know. It's something that is it's foreign. So when we learn a little more about, okay, yeah, my body does that, my body feels this way, the night shift hangover and that tired toddler feeling, and all of those things combine, if we don't take action early enough in the night shift portion of our nursing careers, that's what's going to slowly lead us down the path to burnout. So it might, jobs can be toxic, but if we are not taking care of ourselves in general as night shift nurses, everything else can also start to get out of hand. So
100%.
You can do is just take care of yourself. Personally, it impacts you professionally. Imagine how you go to work when you're feeling like, I feel like crap. I don't want to be here today. Night shift just bugs me. So then professionally, you kind of maybe come off as a different person than who you are when you're not at work. So these routines truly do help personally and professionally in a lot of different ways. So those are the 3 phases of the flip the shift method. It's the own it, the build it, and then to ultimately live it the way you want to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that, because when I do hear from so many people, it's the fear of, I'm not going to get enough sleep. Like that's the big thing. Like you mentioned, that is probably one of the big things a lot of night shifters are worried about, is the sleep aspect. But then the whole flipping between, I mean, there's people that have families at home. So it's balancing like having kids, and how do I do this and that? So I feel like this would be super helpful, because like you said, you break it down into such small pieces and take each thing in its own section to deal with and personalize it for everybody. But it's so true. It's people hear night shift, and I think it is like this fear of like, night shift kind of freaks me out. And I think it is too. It's just abnormally trying to get your body to do something, like you said, that it's not normal to do. So it's trying to teach it in a way, something totally different, and able to have, like you said, that routine game plan set aside. So I love that method. I think it's super helpful. I think everyone's going to love that. as far as anything that you have to tell anyone, any advice, whether it's new nurse, seasoned nurse, anyone with night shift that are going through all of that change or anything, what is like one tip or trick or anything that you could tell anyone that is listening or watching today that would be helpful?
Honestly, it is to set up a routine and get that game plan as early on in a night shift career as possible. So, because of those trickle down effects, personally, health related issues, the side effects of shift work, we can
Mhm.
truly minimize that effect. But then the moodiness and all of the different emotions and everything that comes from that. So, you're creating your own night shift experience. And I know that there's going to be those cranky old nurses on night shift who, first of all, have stayed there for this long for some reason, but will
Yep.
tell you every day that they hate it, that you just take their night shift experiences with a grain of salt because it's not going to be yours.
Mhm.
And building that early enough in a night shift career could potentially change your outlook on it. And that's totally fine. I mean, that's fantastic. We need seniority on night shift all the time,
Yes.
but it doesn't have to suck the life out of you, and it will if you let it. So
Mhm.
taking control early on to figure out what's going to work best and then setting those boundaries and sticking to them
Yes.
because that's what's going to sustain it long term. I do know that new grad nurses in their early 20s straight out of nursing school will kind of do more of the winging it. The nurses who are new moms, more seasoned moms, seasoned nurses, obviously just want to have more of a game plan because they're in a different phase. So
Oh,
we can
yeah.
always adjust our night shift routines for whatever phase of life that we're in. You can always tweak some things, add some pieces because the mamas have to maybe take their kids to school and pick them
Yeah.
up later. And so that's why it has to be individualized because I can't just cookie cutter it and say, okay, get up at 8 o'clock in the morning on your day off. Not everybody
Mhm.
wants to do that. I can give them my night shift routine and they'd probably say, you're only getting 6 hours of sleep between your night shifts. That's crazy. Well, my body likes to do that. So I supplement with workouts. Not everybody can do that. So we have to individualize it. So the earlier you can do that in your night shift career, the better. I will
Mhm.
say that kind of is all of my different phases in life. When I was a new grad nurse, I was newly engaged. So I was planning a wedding. I was brand new on my unit. So I'm learning all of the things. And then eventually got married, went back to school for my MSN. So I had to figure out where school was going to fit in there. At like in
Mhm.
right before COVID, things changed. And so like that relationship ended. So I got divorced. So all of these things required me to adjust my night shift routines to kind of meet what I personally was needing at the time.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of done all of the cycle all over again. Like it was 2020 and COVID, and I had to adjust my night shift routine and function in a new relationship. And how is this going to work? And so thank goodness that now my husband is also shift work. It's not the same
Oh.
hours, but so he gets it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he gets it, we get it. So it's helpful. I know that some struggle when there is a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then there's our night shifters. I've
Mhm.
done it both ways. I've been with
Yeah.
someone who was 9 to 5, and I've been with someone who was shift work. So there are ways to make it work, but you have to adjust to whatever phase it is. I know that my personal next phase is going to be with babies. So how am I going
Mhm.
to handle night shift and kids? So all of these night shift nurses in the network who are also moms or new moms and they still work night shift, they're my resource as well. Like, how are you guys doing this? So that's why we have to have the night shift nurse network as a community because everybody is in these different phases. That's why
Yeah.
in night school everybody is in a different phase, but we're all going through the same thing, and that's night shift. So
Yeah.
we
That
have to set things up early and then adjust as we go through different phases in life. But the earliest that we set things up, and so when I was brand new grad, I was inadvertently working out and trying to do all these things because I was in the middle of planning a wedding. So, I was like,
Mhm.
I have these goals and I'm trying to do it, but that once I learned and I grew up and I got my
Mhm.
MSN and I did the literature review and the research, like, oh, there's actually scientific evidence around the fact that I was adding in exercise. And no wonder I've been able to stay healthy this long, is because I was
Mm.
in it. I was doing these things for totally different reasons in 2014, 2015, 2016
Yeah.
that have just become my routine. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, the evidence says, yeah, you do those things
It's
because
actually,
that's how
yeah,
you
proven.
function and feel good. So I learned later on that there's truly evidence that says, yes, do this. But I've just been doing it all along because I wanted to.
Isn't
So
that funny how that
it's
is? It's
so
like I was doing it
weird.
for a completely different reason, then to find
Mhm.
that there was actually evidence to prove that this was something you should be doing
Yes.
and is helpful. That's so funny. But
Yeah.
I love the point, and I never actually really thought about that as far as the different phases of life and how maybe now you have a set routine that is perfect, works for you. But like you said, as you get older or, things change in your life, you
Yep.
may have to adjust accordingly. And that's exactly having that network of people that are in that kind of phase you are in. So I never really even thought of it that way because I just thought, okay, I have this routine. I'm just going to do all the things, and that that's a really really good point. I'm
Yeah,
really glad you
because
brought
there's
that up.
always going to be something that's going to challenge the way that you have that routine set up. So
Hmm.
we have to make sure we have, of course, the boundaries for the current routine, but then, what if, so for example, like what if next year I bring a baby into my routine and I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because
Yep.
there's probably not going to be one.
Yep.
So dealing with that plus adjusting to just a new phase in life. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that's why nurses come from all different aspects of, they're a seasoned nurse but changing careers, and I've never done night shift, so how do I do this?
Yeah.
Because as we get older, hormones change and things are different too. So that's a different phase of life that's going to require kind of a different routine setup than maybe what
Hmm.
a brand new grad, early 20s nurse
Oh
who
yeah.
still has a lot of fight and everything going on. So we just have to know in general that we are not invincible and that we cannot basically make ourselves superheroes all the time, or we will
Hmm.
burn out.
That is
Night
a
shift
really good
adds
point.
that extra level of burnout that we can hit it so much faster because we now have to fight with our circadian rhythms
Yeah.
and real life. So
Hmm.
I love how you had said earlier that like there's a difference between like working night shift and actually living it.
Oh
So
yes.
we you're working it basically is that's the owning it part. You were just like, I work night shift. It is what it is. I'm winging it all the time. And then there's the portion of living it where it's like, okay, well, these are my shifts and this is how I can help myself be me at home and at work. So
Hmm.
it's a lifestyle, whether we like it or not. So
Yes, it
we
is.
can't be in the frame of mind. I'm either working it or I'm living it. And if you're living it, we can do that to the best of our ability to whatever phase of life
Hmm.
that we're in the moment.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that with all of us because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be like, "Oh my gosh." It was like another light bulb moment of like, "I need to be
Light
doing
bulb.
this and this," Exactly. It's another one of those
Yes.
moments.
Yes. And I mean, to that point too, is that because everybody's in this different phase, you or making that individualized night shift routine, it doesn't mean like, oh, I see this person working out and doing this and like XYZ on their days off. And I need to do that. I should be doing that. You should be doing what's
Hmm.
going to work for you.
Exactly.
So you are not them. So stop trying to make their night shift routine work for you. It's 9 years of this. It's not going to work. I'll tell you that.
100%. Yeah. You're like, I can tell you
I
from
will
my
tell
9 years
it's
experience.
not going to work. If you just want to, if I can give you my routine, that's totally fine. But if you
Yeah.
want to do it and then you're going to tell me that you're suffering, it's
Right?
because my routine is not yours.
Right.
So we have
Everyone
to
has to have their own
individualize.
routine. And that's the
Yes.
point of your 90-day mentorship too, is to
Yes.
find what's going to work for you and what, because
Yes.
everything's individualized to everyone's life. So
Hmm.
that's exactly why that is in place and that's going to be super helpful. So,
Yes.
now that we touched on so many things,
I
but
know.
it's such good information. I am so glad you're on here to talk about it because again, like I said, I get so many night shift people that ask so many questions. And again, I just keep sending them to you. So I'm like, she knows so much and how you can change whatever you need to work for you or get you set for success when you work night shift. But so if anyone wanted to go back on everything like we mentioned to find how to be part of the community, how to sign up for the 90-day mentorship that you have available, or to buy a shirt, or to figure out about the whole flip the shift method, anything and all of the above, where can they find the information? Where can they follow you on social? All of the good things. And then I will obviously make sure it's all in the comments for everyone too. But where can they find you for all of the good information?
So I can give you the direct links. But
okay.
Otherwise, my website is fliptheshift.com. Okay. And all of the main titles up there, there's the shop on there, there's the network on there, then there's mentorship. So everything is kind of all labeled at the top. Or Instagram is pretty much where I live. So I'm at that.nightshift.nurse on Instagram. And then it's actually the same on TikTok. I don't love TikTok, but we're working on it.
It's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress. But it's the same on TikTok, that.nightshift.nurse. So it's both because I know some people modalities are different. So Instagram has, reels and photos and words and pictures and all of the things, but then TikTok is clearly like more video based. So I have a little bit of both on both of them. So those are the two primary socials that I have. And then the fliptheshift.com is going to give you literally access to everything. So you can click on that. It'll take you straight to the pages that you want to be on for the Night Shifters Network, the shop, or you can go to my Instagram and the link in bio will also get you to all of those places. I do have a free, basically like a lifestyle assessment quiz too for night shift nurses to see, are we a thriving night shift nurse? Are we kind of just stuck in this recovery mode constantly? Or are we in survival mode and we're like real close to rock bottom? So it takes through a series of just very brief questions, and by the end, you'll get your results and it'll kind of tell you, and I see all of them on the back end of things too. So you might hear from me afterwards if you get a not so good score. And then that's what night school for sure is for, is to truly help to bump some of these numbers and the night shift experience, your personal night shift experience to at least the next level up. Let's get out of survival mode and at least to more recovery mode.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Okay. So yeah, any of you guys out there listening to this or watching this, go take the assessment, figure out where you guys are at, if you're thriving or if you're in that survival mode and might need some more tips and tricks of how to live the night shift schedule and that kind of life like Ashleigh was talking about. So yeah, I'm going to put all of this in the clip notes. So I'm going to have all of that available for everyone to be able to go to and refer to. But again, I want to thank you so much for coming and talking to everybody about night shift. This is going to be seriously so helpful. Once again, I wish I had this whenever I was started my night shift journey, because it would have been so helpful.
For every time someone has said that to me in the last 3 years,
right? I know.
I might not even be doing this anymore, but
it's so helpful. I think it's going to be, everyone is going to benefit from it basically. So please, guys, check it out. Go to the website and talk with Ashleigh. She can definitely get you guys onto the right path. But again, thanks again for coming on, and for everyone that tuned in and are watching. We will be back with another episode next week. But until then, thanks, and you guys have a good day.